put all your queries and questions in the chat box, and I'll put them forward to our speakers. So to begin with, let us see a short history of the US MBAs. The Wharton School in Pennsylvania, founded in 1881, opened the country's first business school, but that didn't offer graduate studies. While the Haas School of Business, within a few years of Wharton, provided students with the same opportunities in the West Coast. Tuck School of Business was the first school that offered an advanced business degree, but they called it the Master of Science in Commerce degree, which was the forerunner of the MBA. The actual school that offered a proper MBA degree was the Harvard University in 1908. The university had only 15 faculty members and a regular class of 33 students. Now, another famous institution, MIT, also established a management program to train corporate executives. Okay, so the most common admission requirements that everybody should know about are a minimum 4 years bachelor's degree, 2 to 3 years of work experience, depending on your responsibilities, admission documents, which include your essays, mini essays, motivation and recommendation letters, and your statement of purpose, proof of English proficiency, that is the TOEFL with a 100+ score and an IELTS 7.5 and above. The GMAT score is very important, so it's good if you could get above 750 or a GRE score above 330. And finally, there's the interview. Now, let us take a look at the rankings. According to the Financial Times, Harvard is at number 1, followed by Wharton and Stanford. Two of our guests today are Chicago Booth alumni, and the school ranks at number 6. The QS rankings, however, this was the 2020 Financial Times ranking, which is the latest. QS has come up with the 2021 rankings. Here, Stanford is at number 1, followed by Wharton at number 2, and MIT Sloan at number 3. Harvard ranks at 4, while Chicago Booth is at 7. Now, quickly coming to our speakers, Mr. Sebastien Rozanes is a senior strategic advisor at the Boston Consulting Group. He's an alumnus of the Wharton School, where he completed his MBA in 2009. Welcome, he's already with us, so welcome, Mr. Sebastien. Olivier is a managing partner at Square, which is a law firm, and he's an alumnus of the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, class of 10. He studied law, and he's, as you can see, he's working in the field. So I actually have a few questions for you. Welcome, Olivier. The third speaker today is Anand Jha. He's a GMAT tutor. He's based in India and is the founder of Anand Learning Academy, a pool of talented young individuals mentoring students for various competitive exams in India, and also the GMAT. Julien Haccoun is the vice president at Montsou Real Estate, and if any of you have read the messages that Hubert has sent you, you know that he's also the youngest millionaire in France, I think below the age of 26 or something like that. And finally, all of you are familiar with Dr. Hubert Silly. He's the CEO and founder of MBA Center. He is a test prep expert who has helped hundreds of students get into top schools across the US and Europe. He'll be joining us from the beginning and will guide our session. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you for agreeing to be a part of the webinar, and Dr. Hubert and I will continue together. So with the introductions now complete.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's very good, very professional. Okay. So, Sebastien, nice to meet you. Last time I met you, Sebastien, was 15 months ago in Paris, and tell me about your plans. So Sebastien, you were, before applying for working, you were already an engineer with a degree from HEC. So why did you decide to add another layer to your education?
Hello, everyone. Very happy to be with you for the next half an hour. And please don't hesitate to ask questions. We don't want that to be too much of a lecture or for Q&A with you is also very adapted, I think, for the format. So why did I decide to go for an MBA? So since I've been probably 15 years old, I think my plan was to move to North America, and I started to do that with like an exchange program I did during my engineering degree. And I always had the idea that I needed to come back, and that the gateway to enter the US market, or the North American market broadly, would be an MBA. So that's why, like, after I graduated, I already started to prepare all of the steps to have an application ready within the next 2 to 3 years for my MBA, which I did, and hence applied 2 years and a half after graduation and entered exactly 3 years after graduation.
Okay. So why the US, Sebastien? What have you decided to go to the US?
Yeah. So US for me is essentially for like to get this entry door to the US market, and also in my view, the US MBAs, I would say the top 10 US MBAs, they open up the doors of a global job market. So if you want to be living in the US, in Asia, in Europe, the US MBAs are probably the highest, the broadest brand, the largest number of alumni. So guess what? Like when you don't make a bad choice by going to one of these, given all the options will be basically open after. Hence, like for me, it was of course a big push to North America.
Who muted Sebastien Rozanes? Hello?
He's Sebastien, you are on mute.
Sebastien, you're on mute. Yeah.
No. Dipanshu, who is Dipanshu? You have successfully muted all of us.
I got muted. I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Where did I lose you? Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead. So now you said that the US was an entry door. Okay. So,
yes.
So tell me, Sebastien. So to which I remember that. I met you at that time. So to which program have you applied? I forgot. So there was Wharton. There was what?
So I applied to Wharton, Stanford, Berkeley, and Columbia.
Okay.
And
the outcome?
2 on the East Coast, 2 on the West Coast.
Okay.
East Coast, given I had basically 2 interests when I applied. One was finance, and another one was tech, which is more connected to my engineering background.
Okay.
Hence, this was kind of I applied round 1 with giving me the options of if I was not successfully entering one of the programs in round 1 to apply round 2 to other schools that would be my second wave or my second choice.
Okay. So yes, great. And so can you tell me more about your experience at Wharton? Because from the interaction that we had, you studied on both campuses. You have been an assistant professor, if I'm right. So can you tell me about the experience that you have been? So you were not just a student, and sometimes students tell me, oh, I don't like Wharton because I don't want to be in Philadelphia. So first of all, you see that Philadelphia is such a small city, it's not worth it. And second of all, can you tell me more about your experience at Wharton? Because it was not just in Philadelphia, from what I understand. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and even the school has changed a lot since I graduated. I graduated already 11 years ago. So, and since then, there has been a big expansion. So now Wharton has 2 full campuses, one in Philadelphia and one in San Francisco. So you can go to the US and do your program in any of the 2 locations completely. If you want to be fully in San Francisco, there is the option to do that. If you want to be fully in Philadelphia, you can do it. By the time when I was there in 2007 to 2009, the San Francisco campus was really brand new, like it was like 3 or 4 years old. And it was only open at this time to executive MBA. So basically, essentially, people working and living in San Francisco or in the Silicon Valley wanted to go to an MBA without moving full time or moving outside of California. So now it has changed. And when I was there, actually, exactly what you said, I actually in my second year, it was fun. I actually was an assistant professor on the San Francisco office. So basically, going there every 2 to 3 weeks for a year, basically.
What happened? Who has muted us?
This guy.
Yeah, somebody is muting at a distance.
Yeah.
So I need to unmute myself every time manually.
Yeah. We're so sorry for that.
So where did you lose me? Hubert is muted again. Hubert, you got
so, I don't know. Okay, yeah. So basically, very good. Okay. So that's the body experience. So you have been on the 2 campuses, and you told me that you work as an assistant professor. What happened?
Yeah, exactly. So at the time, the San Francisco campus was only open to executive MBAs, and in my first year, I got basically an A+ in one of the classes. and one of the professors with whom I created the link said, look, I'm teaching in the Wharton campus in San Francisco for executive MBAs, and I need an assistant to do that. So I did that basically for a year. I commuted every 2 to 3 weeks. I commuted to the Bay Area to be an assistant professor, to teach, to do the post-class kind of Q&A, etc. Be close to the students over there. But it was kind of a very special position because at the time there was no full-time MBA over there.
Okay, and what did you teach there then? So you made research, or you were a teacher?
No, so I was teaching a class on strategic marketing. And attached to the class it was both a class and a simulation game, and hence they needed somebody to be able to support the students on the simulation, to kind of brainstorm with them and animate a bit the group in terms of defining the steps and actions they wanted to take in the simulation game. And that's why they needed to have somebody in person on campus, and I volunteered for that.
Okay. So tell me, there's a second issue, and I know that's something that is important for you, that you discussed several times when we met. It's the issue of the financing, because a lot of students say, okay, I prefer to go to INSEAD because US MBAs are too expensive, and roughly it's the same. Look, INSEAD is ranked number 4, LBS number 6, HEC number 9 in the FT ranking. So what's the point? So what would you answer to them, to Europe against US, and also to the cost? Because that's something I think that you have ideas on that. Yeah.
Okay. Excuse me. Sorry, Sebastien, you're on mute again.
You're mute again.
Do not mute the. Yeah. Dipanshu, please do not mute the others.
Okay.
Unless you would.
Yeah.
Okay, I got muted again, but now I know when I'm muted, I can see it on the screen. So yes, indeed. So the financing is a big question, and also when you come like me from a background where most of your studies are even up to 22 years old, they were all free basically, or like a very minor cost. When going to the US, it's a total change of mindset, given the cost of education is important in the US. However, for the top MBAs, there are many ways actually to finance your studies, and actually the cost is much lower than what you actually see on the website. So first, most of the international students, if not all, almost, get some sort of scholarship. Basically, they know that when you come from abroad and they really want to attract you to the US, to the program, to bring your profile to the class, they will grant you, if you apply, they will grant you some money. It could be up to 2 years of scholarship for some specific students, for example, that the ones that had very low income, or that were like volunteers working for the Red Cross or stuff like that. Or I had another guy who was like a professional basketball player, but in a small country. So guess what? The money was not huge. So for all of these profiles, you get some big scholarship. And for the more traditional profile, I would say professionals working in the business or engineering space, which often make like a good chunk of the class, you have a lot of different scholarships. You need to educate yourself on what are the scholarships available. That's the first source of funding. The second source of funding is actually like what I did, which is being an assistant professor for some classes. They basically deduct directly the money from your scholarship, and it can be very, very significant. The third source is actually to do some consulting work. So I have some of my friends who've done some, because they have the stamp of a big US institution. Each school basically has more or less a kind of consulting arm, and you can support some businesses, either small or large, depending on the relationship of the professors on specific consulting engagement. There's another one which is actually very meaningful, is actually the summer MBA, because when you go for summer internship during the MBA, when you go for a program that doesn't have it, you don't have a chance actually to benefit from the money that you get through it. Personally, for example, to give you an idea, I interned at Microsoft in Seattle, so it's Washington State and in the US. And over there, basically the compensation for a summer internship of 4 months was and it was 10 years ago, so it's probably more today. It was a bit more than $10,000 per month for an internship, which is basically the more or less the salary that you would get if you were to work at the same time. So with that amount of money, it pays for when you earn 40,000 net of cost, because basically they pay for your housing. You can pay back basically your second year cash immediately after your summer internship, more or less. So guess what? Yes, the top line is huge, but when you look at all of the different sources of money, you can actually really deduct a lot of the cost with all the sources of income you can make.
Okay, great. So you stayed in North America, Sebastien. After,
yes.
So what happened? How did you manage that?
Yeah, so I actually spent 11 years in North America. I just moved back 2 years ago. So my 2 years of MBA and then 9 years after in the US and Canada. Most actually in Canada after. So what I did after school, I joined McKinsey in the US and then in Canada. And I did that for a couple of years. And guess what? When you I forgot the source of income as well, which is big, which is a signing bonus. Whenever you join one of the big firms in the US, it's not the case, for example, at least to my knowledge, in Europe, but for sure not in France, that you actually get a very sizable signing bonus when you join. And for me, it was $35,000 just by signing my contract in December, 9 months before I graduated.
So it pays for the second year. So between
well, again, so for me, like I didn't definitely had zero debt when I left my MBA, because with all the sources of income I got.
Okay. So now you have questions for Sebastien. So what are the questions?
Yes.
What questions have you got for Sebastien?
Go ahead.
So,
maybe I think Bikram Jet. Yes. Why did you move back to France? It was the mistake. So why did you come back to France, Sebastien?
I moved back to France summer 2018. So I actually transferred through my company. I work for the Boston Consulting Group, and I wanted to go back. She got 2 kids while living in Canada. My wife and I wanted to move back to our hometown of Paris, and we organized that properly. And through the transfer within BCG, I moved back to Paris.
Best memory from Wharton, Sebastien? It's another question that was asked.
I think the most fun one, which is the thing I will always remember, is that there was a special program in first year when you can enroll into for 3 or 4 days in the US military in the Quantico camp. So they have a training camp for military military in the US, not in Maryland, I think not too far from Washington, D.C. We went there for 4 days, with probably, I think, 3 nights. And there was it was really a training camp, I guess probably diluted versus the real version for the real military. But for us, it was really challenging, and it was a great way to make connections and bonding in my first year.
Okay, so a student asked, Karishma, what was the question that you saw? I saw several questions from students. Yeah?
How were you, there's a question from Sandra Paul. How were you able to get internships in the USA? And what should one do to get in the big 5 companies?
Yeah, so getting an internship in the US is very easy, given so as long as you are a student with a visa, you can work for 1 year or 2 years, I forgot, in the US. The issue is to have to get a job after, to get a visa to work after. But as a summer intern, it's super easy because you're still a student, so you can work under the student visa.
Okay.
Okay. The student asked for the mean salary of your of the student at Wharton after graduation. What was it according to you?
So it was 10 years ago, so it probably has changed.
Yeah.
But, so I think
10,
it was
10,000 per month. 10,000.
So I think it was per year. I think it was somewhere around 170 or 175. I think something like that on average, something like this. But I guess I don't have the latest numbers. So with inflation, etc., I don't have I haven't looked at it for a long time, to say the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. Parag has a question. What advice would you give a person having more than 10 years of experience and thinking for an executive MBA? What are the pros and cons to evaluate before taking the plunge?
Yeah. And look, like when you introduced it, Karishma, you said it's 2 to 3 years. Actually, 2 to 3 years is really the minimum, and the average at least at Wharton was more around 6-7 years. And guess what? It's a bit different also because in the US, people graduate earlier, so they graduate after 4 years. Like typically they are 21 or 22 when they graduate, and when you are in Europe, it's a bit different. You are more like 22 to 24. So being 10 years of experience is actually not an outlier. Like you would, of course, be in the older crowd, but it's not very far from the mean. The advice there is you get a big chance versus the other ones to have much better war stories in your own work experience. Given after 10 years, you probably have come across multiple things. Also, after 10 years, you probably have had more senior positions and management positions that you can highlight and that will make a difference in a class versus somebody like me, for example, who was a junior when I entered Wharton. Definitely, there is much more to say. 3, I think what you need to understand is the position that you will get after the MBA will not be significantly higher in most companies if you had 3 years of experience or 10 years of experience, more or less. The reason for that is that most of the companies, most of the big ones, they hire at a certain level after MBA. It's a standard, and you enter at that level. Does it mean that you will have a linear growth after that? Probably not, because if you have more experience, you probably will be able to shine faster, better, stronger than the others. But you have to be aware that if you go for a big company, even it's very standardized, there won't be a big value for this additional years of experience. However, I've seen many of my friends who had more experience than me going into more mid-sized businesses, people who are not hiring like MBAs every year, and they would take directly a kind of a senior management position in these smaller companies. And they would take the 10 years of experience plus the MBA as an additional step and hire somebody at that level in the organization.
At the same time, Sebastien, now that there's a Wharton 2+2, we call that, it was a question. So with no work experience, at your time, it did not exist. Probably when you applied, it was, so Harvard started with what you call HBS 2+2, we call that now a deferred MBA. It's something that you would advise to someone?
Yes. So given I work for BCG, there are many MBA, especially when I was in North America, many MBAs and many people who are doing the 2+2 program, and it's really awesome because it's an opportunity for you to apply very early to distinguish yourself with your school plus early professional experience early on. You secure your entry. It actually can be 2+2, but actually most of the people I know they've done I think 3 years with BCG and then they went there. So basically it's open. You have kind of a window of a couple of years so that you can join, and you decide whenever you want to join. I think it's really an awesome opportunity because you do it, then your mind is freed up. You can just prepare for it for the next couple of years. Also, it's these essays and GMAT can be a bit painful because it's a lot of dedication and work to do that. Guess what? When you are a student, it's probably easier. You are into the move of doing exams, etc. So doing all of that is probably easier than when you are in the middle of your professional experience. So I would really advise to do it. I think it's very valuable to apply as early as you can, as long as you are clear about your plan.
Okay. So thank you very much, Sebastien, because I know that you're busy. You with your family. Yeah. It's Saturday, and there's Olivier waiting now. So it was very nice. I will come to see you again. So you're still in Paris now? You're in Paris?
Yes, I am. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. It's always very clear.
My pleasure. And good luck, everyone.
very informative. So all these students, they are currently preparing their GMAT. Okay, I don't know if they will score as high as you on the GMAT, but they are targeting. They are ambitious. And by the way, it's our students from India that you are talking to, and you can see from the names, because we have operations in India. Okay, since we last met. So thank you very much, Sebastien.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Thank you. Bye bye. Okay. Thank you very much, Olivier.
Hi.
Thank you, Sebastien. Yeah. Hi. So thank you. So Olivier, first question that I have for you, because you have an unusual profile. You're not a consultant. Okay. So can you describe yourself? So could you please describe yourself before when I met you? What, 12 years ago? I don't know, 15 years ago. What was your position? What was your situation when you decided to go for an MBA?
So, well, when we met, Hubert, I was a mid-level associate in a top law firm in Paris, and I had been studying law. I became a lawyer, and I'd been practicing law for about 4 or 5 years when we met. By the time we met, that was in 2007. So I was a lawyer in mergers and acquisitions. So heavy finance involved in what I was doing every day. But many lawyers don't understand finance, and that was something that was problematic for me because I like to understand what I do. So I wanted to study finance, economy, which I had not had the opportunity to do before. That's why I wanted to do MBA.
Okay, so I remember that when we met, you were already married with 2 kids at that time.
Yeah.
So you could have also gone for INSEAD because you were based in Paris. You are married with 2 kids. So why did you decide to go to the US, which is a longer program, more expensive? Why did you take the risk? What was the rationale behind the MBA in the US? Yeah.
Well, I don't. If it had been a rational decision, maybe I would have gone to INSEAD. My case is a little bit specific. Yes, I was a little older. I think I was 30 when we met. I was 31 when I started the MBA, so a little bit older than most for full-time programs. I already had, like you said, I was married and I had 2 kids. The one thing that was specific, and just like Sebastien before, I had always wanted to study in a university in the US. I always wanted to, since I was a kid, I wanted to get the US experience of university, especially as I grew older and I understood that economy and finance, the people who knew that best were the Americans. And then one more specific thing is that my wife, she's now my ex-wife, was American.
Okay, great. So to which? So Karishma, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
So my question was, so why did you particularly choose Chicago Booth as the school you wanted to go to? Because and what is this interest in finance after law? Because as a lawyer, it is something that people work a lot and get there. So why did you choose to do this?
Like I said, in my daily work, there was a heavy load of finance. My clients were top private equity firms. We handled top banks, M&A banks every day, or C-level clients in companies who were heavily armed with finance and econ knowledge. So as a lawyer, I felt like I needed to understand this to be a better lawyer. That's the one thing. The other thing is I also wanted to try to branch out of law. A lot of people are not happy. A lot of lawyers I know are not happy with the job. That kind of goes with the way law firms are structured, especially top law firms. So you have a lot of unhappy people working in law firms. So part of my idea was either I would be able to get out of law and do something else, like work in a private equity fund, or I would be a better lawyer. Either way, I won. That's why I did it that way. When you do mergers and acquisitions, you need to understand finance. If you don't understand finance, you can't do your job right.
So tell me, Olivier.
Chicago booth?
Yeah, and where's Chicago booth? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Why Chicago booth? So back then, Chicago booth was, top 3 or top 5, whatever. I saw in your presentation at the beginning that it's fallen to 7 in the QS ranking. I guess it's different depending on the rankings, but anyway, it's still top 10. I applied to other ones. I applied to Wharton, but I did not particularly want to go to Philadelphia. I applied to Columbia, but I did not want to go to New York. I also applied to Harvard. I would have liked to go to Harvard if I had been accepted. I was not. And Chicago was my second choice after Harvard. For the city, it's an amazing city, although it's a little bit cold, but so are most of the fun cities in the US, or nice cities in the US. The University of Chicago in economy is no contest #1 in finance and econ. It's questionable on other matters, but finance and econ, there's no question of who has the best academic, the best program. So that definitely drove my choice to Chicago, and the city is a very nice city. It's a good place to live.
Olivier, so when you left, I remember that when you left for the US, you had a certain professional plan. Okay, how have they evolved from what you had in mind to what you're doing now? Because that's something we discussed several times. I have many students who are lawyers like you and want to make a career switch, and you have your own idea on that. So can you tell us?
Yeah. So, like I said before, I think many lawyers are not happy with their job, not because the job is not an interesting job. I think it's actually one of the most interesting jobs in the, that you could possibly have. What makes most lawyers miserable is the way that law firms are structured, the way the pressure, the whole thing is wrong. So at first I thought I wanted to get out of law, and I went and studied econ and finance at Chicago, and I tried to find my way to private equity, to work in a private equity fund, which I did. I found a private equity fund in France that told me they would take me at the end of my MBA. I started my MBA in September 2008, and a week later, Lehman Brothers collapsed, and then the whole thing that most of us are familiar with, which created which created the fail of many private equity firms, and my job was lost. So I had to figure out what I wanted to do while I was at the MBA. I think I tried the recruiting in banking and in consulting for about 3 days before I realized what Sebastien was saying, which is no matter what experience you came with, you would start at a certain level, which is a level that I was not ready to have coming out of the MBA, because I was a little older, I was more experienced, and I was not ready to work the ladder another 5, 6, 7, 8 years in a very demanding company like BCG, McKinsey, Bain, or at the bank. Same thing at the banks. So somewhere during the first year, I realized that I was most likely going to go back to law, but this time equipped with a different set of tools, and what those tools have allowed me since I've come back to law about 10 years ago They've allowed me to be a better lawyer in mergers and acquisitions, in private equity, particularly in venture capital. That's where I find that my finance background is very helpful for my clients, and it's also allowed me to structure my law firm differently. So right now I'm the managing partner of a law firm which I founded. We're now 15 lawyers, an office in London, an office in Paris. We're growing actually quite fast. I was able to create a law firm that's very efficient, that's scalable, which is something you learn in the MBA when you do the private equity and the venture capital class. The scalability of the business you create in order to achieve rapid growth and important valuation maybe someday. So anyway, everything that I've learned in the MBA, I was able to apply to the business that I structured, which happens to be a law firm, but it could have been any other business.
Okay. So I have a question which somebody had asked prior. So the thing is, you moved from Europe to US to do an MBA, and you had experience. So similarly, people here are asking, is when people move from one place to another, let's say India to the US, is it better to look at a full-time MBA, or should one consider an executive MBA, especially if you have over 10 years of experience? And is a full-time MBA better, as it will, let's say, accommodate all your changes that are happening, or what is your take on this?
It was tough, with moving with my wife and my kids, going back to being a full-time student, especially in a time of turmoil in the 2008, 2009 was a little bit stressful when you were a student, when you were unemployed, basically. So all of this created a lot of tension, a lot of stress for me, for my now ex-wife, which we separated during the MBA. Which I think part of one of the causes of that separation probably is the MBA. So you have to take that into account when you go do a full-time MBA, when you're in your, let's say, early 30s, and you already have, and you bring a family with you. That's going to create some stress, some tension, which you're going to have to handle. So my advice would probably not to do what I did. If you're over 30, my advice would probably that you do an executive MBA, which is going to be, it's going to put some stress on you, because you're going to have to do additional work on top of your daily job. You're going to have to do the classes and the homework and all that, and it's going to put some stress on your family, because they won't be able to have you on the weekends and all that. But I think that stress is more manageable than the full-time MBA and the stress of your family seeing you as a full-time student and not knowing what's going to happen, especially if during your MBA there's a worldwide financial crisis.
Okay. What do you think the impact of the COVID-19 will be on the job market? Like this time when people are joining, this is one thing that's on everybody's mind. So what is your take on this?
I don't really have, I don't know what is going to be on the job market. We kind of all going on a limb on what's, how the COVID-19 crisis is going to affect all of our economies. I mean, there's no doubt there's going to be a huge crisis, financial and otherwise, economic, which definitely is going to have an impact on the job market. I think that the more qualified people will have less trouble finding a job. So I think an MBA is an advantage when there's a crisis. between, if you're competing for a job between someone who has an MBA and someone who doesn't have an MBA, I'd say the person looking to hire is going to favor the MBA. One of the top MBAs, the ones you listed, top US MBAs, their value is non-questionable. People can hire, closing their eyes if you check one of those boxes, a top 10 US MBA.
Parag has a question that says, what are your views on general MBA degrees compared to the trend of MBA in very specific domains? So that is the question.
See, I'm not familiar with that. My MBA, so it's a general MBA, but while you're doing the MBA, you choose your concentrations, they're called. So I saw that you wrote that I had MBA in finance, but I have MBA my MBA has 4 concentrations, which I was able to make by myself by choosing specific classes, and depending, if I chose 3 or 4 classes in one concentration, then I would get that concentration on my diploma. So my diploma is MBA in finance, accounting, behavioral management, and private equity and entrepreneurship. It's called entrepreneurship, which englobes private equity and venture capital. So I don't know, I don't think that a general MBA really exists. I think if you're going to go in an MBA, I think they're all going to give you accounting, finance, econ background. And then from there, you're going to be able to build some focus, some concentration on a specific area. But that I don't know enough of the other MBAs to tell you. But I know Chicago Booth allows you to pick your concentration, although you have to have some basic classes in accounting and finance and econ.
Now, basically, yes, to explain to you is that you have to know that the acronym MBA is not protected. So in some countries, business schools that are not very highly ranked and who are not allowed to call themselves masters, you cannot deliver masters, they call themselves MBA in finance, MBA in marketing, whatever. And you have a lot of these programs, for instance, in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. I've seen a lot of our Indian students have an MBA in marketing, for instance, okay? You have to see that the top MBAs, Harvard, Wharton, Stanford, inside the top 50 are not specialized MBAs, they are general management degrees, okay? Now, of course, these schools have specialized masters. For instance, if you consider MIT, the MIT has a master in finance, MIT has a master in data science, okay, and business analytics, you see? So you have no specialized MBA. The specialized MBA, they're called like this because they are not allowed to take the name masters in their respective countries, okay? So don't be fooled by that. An MBA is a general degree. Of course, usually on year 2, you specialize. So for instance, at INSEAD, the first 2 terms, so the first 4 months, it's a general management degree, and then you specialize. At Chicago, you specialize on year 2. Is it on year 2 that you say to specialize? Or year 1 was very generalist? Yeah, Chicago is specific.
No, it's yeah, Chicago, you kind of pick and choose your classes. You have to have certain ones, but you can do the accounting on the very last quarter or whatever. But yeah, typically you specialize on the second year.
So the question that maybe the students have, because you have to understand, Olivier, that it's a seminar for our Indian students, okay? And you have to see that a lot of them, of course, leave India to study in the US and stay there, okay? That's why, for instance, we could not have any Indian students, Indian graduates, because they all live in San Francisco and they work for Amazon, a lot of them. So it was too early for them, you see, Olivier. So that's why they will attend the second seminar. Why did you come back to France? Quality of life, your roots. What are the reasons behind coming back to France?
Yeah. So like I said earlier, from the time I was a teenager, like many people in the world, I had some attraction to the US, at least people from my generation. And once I was there in 2008, and I lived there, and I was a student there, and especially in hard times for the US. What I found a society that was very different from my expectations. Very close-minded, very castic. I found that it was very difficult to move from one social group to another. Anyway, I found, I wasn't happy in the U.S. because many reasons, and I think the foreigners, the immigrants in the U.S. who find happiness typically stay within their groups, whether it's French people who, maybe Julien will later on tell you his experience I think Julien is in Florida, lives in Florida, if I remember correctly, where there's a big French community there. I don't know if whatever. Anyway, I came back to France for quality of life, for I figured that I would go higher in France than I would be able to in the US. I would reach my limit later in what I was able to do in France, and the reality has proven me right. What I've been able to accomplish in France, I don't think I would have been able to accomplish in the US.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Any other question? Karishma?
No, I do not have any other question, and I think we have to move on.
Tell me, so Olivier, what is the best piece of advice you would give to our applicants? So you see they're all from India, okay? For them, it makes sense to move to the US, probably, if you know Indian salaries. And I love you, Indian students, huh? Okay, you're my students, but you see what I mean? It's not, you cannot compare salaries from the US and salaries in India. Your piece of advice, what would you give? Best piece of advice?
Well, I actually, the people from India in the Chicago booth MBA, they're the people I was able to become the closest to. So we had a lot of Chinese, we had a lot of Indians in Chicago. About only 1/3 of the students were American, I'd say. The other 2/3 were foreign. And a lot of Chinese, a lot of Indian. I've got a lot of friends who came to Chicago booth, the Indian friends. They came to Chicago booth. They worked for a year or two in the US or in England. There's actually a lot of them who went to work in England from Chicago booth, and they went to work in banking or in consulting in England. Which may be a better place for Indians than the U.S. That's my guess why they did that historically. Maybe it's easier for them. And then from England, where they stayed a couple of years, they went back to India, and some of them. One of them she's actually become a client since then, still a friend. She created a startup in India, and then sold her startup to one of the biggest companies in India, and she's still running that startup as a division of that big company, and she lives in India and is happy in India. It's wherever you're from, it's hard to find happiness, no matter why, away from your home. It is, and I'm somebody who doesn't have strong roots, so I could have been happy in the U.S. or somewhere else, but just happens that I think the U.S. is a very difficult place to live.
Okay. Thank you very much, Olivier. It's very nice. Hope that I will come to see you soon. From that, I'm a bit stuck in Brussels. As you know, it's difficult to move, and our class.
Right now I'm in Brazil, so I don't know if you will be able to come to Brazil. So,
but I know, but you told me that you'll be there for 1 month. Huh? You'll be there for a month.
Yeah, one, or it depends how long they decide to lock people down in France.
Okay, you may stay longer. Great. Yeah, but it's, you have a nice life. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Olivier. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. So Anand Jha, Anand, you want to talk to us? Anand, are you with us, Anand? So, Anand,
yeah, I'm there.
You can understand that the student that you saw, whether it be Sebastien who got 770 or Olivier who got 750, which is outstanding for a lawyer. Huh? Okay.
Right.
For a lawyer, because when you're a lawyer, you don't study mathematics. So basically, they got in. You have to know, all of you who are there, because they got good GMAT. In reality, what makes the difference usually between my students who apply to Wharton and the students who apply to INSEAD is because simply Wharton because they get 720 plus, INSEAD because they get 680, and with the 680 you cannot go anywhere. But you have seen post MBA salaries. We're talking of $15,000. Don't even expect half of that if you study at INSEAD and you stay in Europe. Okay, so it's if you want to make money, go to America. And I would perfectly understand that Indians, if you decide, okay, to live in India, I would perfectly understand that you decide to be in a country where you can make more money and probably where it is easier to move. For an Indian, probably there's a big Indian community in America, and also English-speaking country. The two only English-speaking countries that we have in Europe are Ireland and UK, with probably the exception of Netherlands. I think that you can cope with in the Netherlands, even though when you have to pay your phone bill, it's not easy. When I arrived in Belgium, I speak Dutch, and it was not easy at all. So, advice about the GMAT. Who are your students, Anand? Okay. What piece? How do you prepare them for the GMAT? What piece of advice would you give for a student who wants to go to the US and read a very strong GMAT score? What would you advise him? What do you want to do with him? What program do you offer? Can you tell me?
So I prepare them overall. I prepare them based mostly for the quant and the verbal sections because I have given GRE, TOEFL, GMAT, every exams I have given. So I have a good understanding of all those concepts, and so I prepare from the grassroots level. Plus, I told them that which score you are targeting based on that level, because many students fall in different categories. Some are mediocre, some are exceptional, and some are a little bit weak. So based on that, which university they want to target, which countries they are targeting. So accordingly, I'll train them, right? Some students are quite meritorious, so they want to go for like 720, 760 out of 800, or some cannot reach that particular point. So I designed solutions based on that specific student. What are their capabilities? How much time do they need? Like some may need 3 months, some may need 2 months or 1 month. So based on that, I prepare them accordingly, right? Which university you are dreaming for, right? So accordingly.
Okay. So according to you, why do Indian students need such high scores?
Because the competitions are quite tough these days.
Yeah.
Right, that's why they have to be very competitive. They have to, I mean, just one score will make a huge difference in the university, right? University is very, I mean, they are not lenient. Even when I was applying for my master's studies, I fall short of 1 mark and I have to write again TOEFL test and GRE test, imagine. So competition is quite tough, right? So that's how they have to prepare for this. And this is not a cakewalk which you can prepare in 1 or 2 days. You need consistency in this exam.
Okay.
That's how. Yeah.
So the question that I have for you is that I was impressed because I send, you know that we work very closely with INSEAD, LBS. So for my NIM students, I was sending the report of my students and their target scores.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed because when I had Indian students, their score was between 750 and 780. And my European students, their score was between 640 and 680. So there was a huge gap.
There's a huge gap.
And I feel very proud because I said, okay, when they see 750, 760, 780, the school will be very willing to work with us.
Yeah.
Why are Indians scoring so well and so high on the GMAT, according to you?
See, we work quite hard a lot. Okay, so Indian students are from the time we are born, we are trained in such a manner that if we want to excel in our career, we have to work really hard. That's what. And mathematics, so from the childhood point of time, your parents will keep rushing behind you, develop your mathematical skills. That's how these exams to take care of quant. So mathematics and English forms the basics part of that. So from the childhood itself, we train ourselves in such a way. That's why you'll see most of the Indians doing really well in the abroad and in other countries across the world. That's why.
So that the secret is that, so basically we said that
because I have been teaching many students, I have many Chinese students, Korean students. So sometimes I feel that their basics are not clear, be it a quant, be it a verbal level or English reasoning. So they're not able to, understand the particular scenario in this. Right, but we as Indians, we have seen those things right from the beginning. That's why. That's why when you see the results, Indian students are doing definitely well.
So they do well because you come from a competitive society, okay? So not for
correct.
And their level of English is good, and they know that they have to compete. Okay.
Yeah, they have to compete. Yeah, the competitions are, way too high. Gone are those days when we were, young and all. At that time, competition was not that much high. But these days, it's really, really tough. There's so many students rushing for the university, and just a 1 mark difference will make a huge, huge toll on the career.
Yeah, because there are many students. Yes, hello.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Sandra has a question here.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but Sandra has a question. She asks, what's the best way to prepare for the GMAT? I know there is no shortcut to it, but if there is any specific tip that you would give.
Okay, start from the basics. Go through the syllabus, starts from the basics, start from the quant and English. Try to read newspaper. I'll say the best way to improve your vocabulary, as much as vocabulary you can use, and try to use in your daily life. Especially this is for the verbal part I'm telling you. Quant part, so you have to start from the basics, right from the basics, and slowly it will increase. Try to see without lifting a pen if you can solve a problem in mind quickly. That's how it works. That's how you can run ahead of the time, right? So practice as much as you can. There are so many shortcut videos on YouTube everywhere. We are flourished with this. We have the technology, so make use of it. Try to do the smart study. Don't sit, long, like 4 or 5 hours. Try to do a smart way in the just 1 hour. Try to gain so much of knowledge that you can solve the question as quickly as possible with correctness, right?
Okay.
So start from the basics. Start from the basics. Assume you don't know anything, so start from the complete scratch. And give every day. I'll say if you're working, give at least 2 hours every day.
How long does this take? Like you said, 2 hours. So is it 6 months, 1 year, 2 years?
So if every day you can spend 2 hours, and if you have a good background, good held in English and mathematics, then I think 3 months is definitely a good point. You can go ahead. And if you are really well, and if you are really focused, like 3-4 hours, then of course 1 and 2 months you can do. So based on your potential, you just assess it. Try to give mock test. The best way I feel is giving Karishma is the mock test. Try to give the mock test first. To give the mock test, analyze yourselves. Where are your negative points? Try to develop over that. That's how it works. Any exam, be it GMAT, GRE, TOEFL. Even I wrote GRE, TOEFL. I did the same way. I just opened the mock test. I gave some random score. I was worried. Oh, what is this? So then accordingly I worked on. Then accordingly you develop those skills.
So the question that I have for you, can you tell me about success stories? Your greatest 2-3 greatest success stories, someone who scored high or someone who scored low and scored relatively high. Tell us, Anand.
Okay, so there was one student, I'll say, I prepared him for basically GRE. He wanted to do MS, not for the GMAT. So GRE I was used to prepare. He was really weak in maths. So I asked him which university you are targeting for. So then he said, I want to go to Stanford and Harvard. Then I guided him accordingly. I think that's definitely not possible, seeing your potential, because I don't want to give fake promises, right? Mm-hmm. Based on your understanding, your potential, where you can reach, I know where I can make him land, right, in the future. So 6 months rigorously, I worked on him. Then somehow he got the Northwestern University. That's really good for the master's program. So over a period of time, I gave him the mock test. I prepared him the, type of questions, how GRE and TOEFL ask. And GMAT is quite adaptive. GMAT is like, if I can answer one question correctly, second question will be of tougher level. If I can answer first and second question correctly, then third question will be more on tougher level. So it's a dynamic based, which is same for the GRE and TOEFL also. So it's a dynamic base. So you have to prepare accordingly, right? So if I suppose first question I did it wrong, so second question will be quite easy level. That's how your score varies from the topper, from the mediocre, and the least. So I made him, and finally he got a good score, and then he's right now pursuing his master's program. So yeah.
Okay. You have others, Anand? You have other success stories?
Other success.
Yeah.
So far, due to COVID-19, many of the students have postponed their plan. So I'm looking once the situations get settled fast, so more students will come into picture, and then I'll get a chance to train them. Yeah.
Okay. So, Ben, thank you very much, Anand. So stay with us, of course, because I would ask you to give your last word at the end. So, Julien, now. Julien Haccoun. Where are you, Julien? You okay? Yeah, great. So, Julien, are you in Miami or are you in Paris now? I cannot hear you. Your phone seems to be mute. Hello? Julien? I cannot hear you, Julien. There's an issue. Julien? Where is the thing? Yeah, the microphone, your microphone is off. Can we have, because it seems that you're not on mute. Are you on mute?
Yeah.
Cancel. No, you're not on mute. Hello?
Yeah. We cannot hear you. I think the antivirus, if you have, has
done something. You think? Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So are you now in Paris or in Miami?
So I am in Miami. Miami. So after Booth, when I graduated from University of Chicago Booth in 2011, I came to Miami right after to start my own company, and I've been living here since 10 years. Got married. I have 2 kids now.
So tell me, tell me, how did you manage? So tell me your story, because I left you from there. So basically, after the MBA, you say, I want to stay in America. Tell me what prompted you to stay in America? Did you manage to stay, to get your visa, whatever? Yeah.
Sure. So when I came to the University of Chicago Booth after 2 years. Basically, at the end of the MBA, I with a classmate from the University of Chicago, we came to Miami because my parents they have a second home in Miami, and we started a distress fund in real estate. At that time, it was very interesting because of the credit crunch crisis, and there was a lot of auctions in Miami, foreclosure auctions. So people were losing their homes every day on a daily basis, like 300 people every day were losing their homes. And we saw an opportunity in the market. I don't have any background in real estate, but with this classmate who was a lawyer, we thought it was very interesting, and we raised some money. And also, we tapped in the University of Chicago Booth network. We called maybe 50, 60 people in the field of the real estate, of the mortgage industry, the financing industry, the private equity industries. And we got a lot of advices very quickly. We raised a few millions, and after we were able and after we raised also fund from an institutional investor from France, and we were able also to acquire 400 units, homes in Florida. And since then, I stay in the US, I stay in Florida, in Miami. I keep on working in the real estate field, and I have a work visa, so I don't have any green card because I'm working for myself. I have an E2 visa, which is basically when you are an entrepreneur, when you invest in the US, when you hire people in the US, you have a work visa, which is a non-immigrant visa, and you need to renew it every 5 years. So this is my legal situation here.
And how has you evolved from buying foreclosures? Are you still managing the houses, renovate, and sell them, or is the business now after? I'm sure that you have changed a bit the business model. Or?
Absolutely, yeah. So I am also working for a family office, a French family office, who embrace these strategies of buying a foreclosure unit at that time. And since 4 or 5 years, we are now working in the development field. We are building middle-income housing complexes between 70 to 300 units. Right now, we have 1,000 units in the pipeline in the south of in the Miami area. We are also investing in other developments outside of Florida, in Texas, in North Carolina, in everything that is commercial real estate in the US, we are investing in. So it's a very opportunistic company. We have a lot of flexibility. So since then, I mean, we pivot to the development field of real estate.
It makes sense. So basically, I remember that when you applied for the US, you were pretty young, okay,
Yeah.
with no work experience. So was it difficult to cope with people like Olivier, who are older than you? So how did you find? Was it a good idea to start so young? Would you redo it? Would you wait a bit? Tell us.
So when I joined the University of Chicago, I was going on my 24. I was a bit disappointed at the beginning because I was not the youngest of the class. I was the second youngest. And but after I was relieved because the youngest dropped out after a few months. So I got the title, and I was the youngest of the class. It was to be honest. And I'm going to speak about and I don't regret at all my experience at University of Chicago. I'm going to speak about it, but to be honest, it was. I mean, it's definitely a weakness to be young in this program. During the interviews, for instance, I mean, you have access to a lot of interviews. I got the interviews with all the big firms. I was looking at working in the investment banking field or in the consulting field. And I got access to interviews with McKinsey, BCG, Goldman Sachs, everybody. All the big guys were there, and I had the interview with them. But the fact that I had such a low work experience, I had the technical skills to do the work, but I was missing some corporate skills that you get when you have you spend more time in a company. And I got this skill after the MBA. A few years after the MBA, I understood what I was missing at that time of the interview. So this was a weakness to not to have a strong work experience. I mean, at least 3 years of working experience. I had 2 years, 1 year and a half of work experience, and that was a bit, and that was a weakness in my profile.
So you recommend to work a bit, maybe. But tell me, Julien, did you get offers, or the offers that you got were not interesting for you? What happened exactly?
So when I came to University of Chicago, I applied to University of Chicago because I had 2 masters before already. I had a master in finance and a master in insurance. So I was a very scientific guy, and I got an offer in a summer internship in one of the largest insurance company in the world, which is Zurich Financial Services in Chicago, and I got a full-time offer after the MBA. But I mean, my intention when I came to Chicago was to work in the banking field, and this is what I wanted to do, and I didn't have an offer that was satisfying enough for me, and I had this opportunity to start something from scratch with a classmate from the University of Chicago. I think it was a very ambitious project, and I took that, but if I had an offer from Goldman Sachs or a stronger investment bank, I would have taken this offer, even if I think today I would have regret that. But yeah, I mean, I didn't get what I wanted to have.
I know you're an achiever, Julien, so it's fine, you know.
I know.
You're an achiever, so it's fine. You're much better off today than if you had worked as an employee. By the way, both you and Olivier are entrepreneurs, huh? So it shows that there's room. Karishma, you have questions? Huh?
Yeah. This is related to financing. Since you said you were very young at that time and you had already been studying only, so far as I can see, you were studying. You had 2 masters prior to this, and you just had 2 years of work experience. How did you finance your MBA? Because this is a big question that everybody has, especially in India. We do not have a lot of internships and things like that. So how do you do that?
So I was lucky to have some my parents, they were able to finance my MBA. And I mean, I did have some saving from a small saving, but my parents basically helped me on that. I mean, they lent me some money that I paid them after a few years. But this is how I made the payment of the tuition.
But did you have an internship, for instance, Julien, between year 1 and year 2? Did you get an internship so it could pay off a bit? Yeah.
Yeah. I got an internship. Didn't really help a lot, but I mean a bit. I got an internship, and this company actually hired me after the MBA. Proposed me a full-time offer after the MBA, and I declined the offer. But yeah, I was able to save some money during the summer thanks to the internship.
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah. So I have a question again. Olivier mentioned that there was quite a significant Indian population at the Chicago Booth School MBA program. So we had a question prior to this that said, how do other non-Indian MBA candidates perceive Indian MBA candidates in USB schools with respect to competition and culture? I think everybody would like to know, especially in this group.
Can you repeat the question?
How do other non-Indian MBA candidates perceive Indian MBA candidates with respect to competition and culture?
Indian students, are very strong. They are very solid, very analytical, and yeah, they are very good at in any team. So yeah, we perceive them as very solid analytically. And also very social, very sociable. I spent a lot of time with the Indian people. They organize a lot of parties. They have their own culture, and and this is something that is very interesting in an MBA, that you meet so many interesting different people every day, and this is a time in your life that will never happen. You won't find this type of experience in the rest of your life. Where you are able to go in a place and meet. Each person is very interesting in his own way. Sometimes before in your life, you meet some interesting people and you say, oh, he's a nice guy. I would like to meet him again. But here, when you're in an MBA, the selection of the curation of the people is so amazing that everybody has his own story, his own life, his own background, his own reason to be here. And I think this is what you get the most from an MBA. Aside obviously from the academic, the academic track, you get to learn a lot from the people, and this is what I got the most from the MBA. But the Indian people, in particular, I think that they are very respected by their analytical skill. They are very solid.
Okay, so let's talk about your best memory from Chicago at that time.
I think best memory, I would say that. I was young. I was 24, and was coming from France. I had a solid background, and I always wanted to become an investment banker, working in the banking field. And I remember in France when I wanted to go in, I met some bankers before. In my school, there were some recruiting event, and they were bringing like two guys from from Rothschild or whatever. And I say, okay, that's great. I have an opportunity to go in this bank. I have some access to the bankers. It's amazing. And I remember the first time I came to the first recruiting event at University of Chicago. It was Credit Suisse that came, and so I was young, so I was very impressed very, very easily. But I saw 70 bankers coming here to recruit us, and there were more bankers than students. There was a CEO of Credit Suisse who was here as well. So you have access to a lot of support in your recruiting process. I was very impressed by this. And also, another best memories is that you go to a school like the University of Chicago, and the people who are I love knowledge. I love to learn new theory more than the practical aspect of a field. And I was in the University of Chicago, and one of the four of the teachers were actually Nobel Prize, and that was really impressive for me. It was I was basically learning from the best in their field, and that was also a very nice memory.
All right. So Louis has a question. Did you have any interactions as a full-time MBA with executive MBAs? I guess the question is because of the experience gap. And how was your experience if you had interactions with them?
Yes, actually, at some point, I had an unfortunate event in my life during the MBA, and the school proposed me to catch up a class that I had to miss because of this event. They proposed me to, they offered me to attend the executive MBA class. So I did a one class with one executive class in 1 quarter with them. I mean, there are people that are much higher, higher level of their career, very smart, very advanced, very efficient, very busy as well. And so yeah, the difference between an executive MBA and an MBA is, in terms of the students, is I mean, you see it right away. I mean, the executive MBA is the interaction is completely different. It's much more. They are much more efficient. They don't have a lot of time, and they go the thing much faster. So there is definitely a big difference between the two curriculum.
Okay. Julien, one more question, because I know that you have a family. You have because Louis would like to apply to the Chicago Executive MBA, and you know Chicago has a campus in London. You see, Julien, that's why we have many applying, and this is the best US Executive MBA that we have in Europe, because there is also Kellogg that has one, but less prestigious probably. You have another question for Julien because he has a family. Julien, you in Florida? Do you still play tennis? The right country to play tennis, yeah.
Yeah. You have a lot of. When I have some time, I still play tennis, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it's a great place to play tennis. It's you have a lot of training tennis camps there, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I have the final question. Any particular learning that you got during your time at Chicago Booth that you would share with all these youngsters with us today?
No, I think that what is amazing in an MBA that, I mean, as I said, I have a statistical background, and so I took some statistical class, like the second level or third level of statistical class, and what you cover in a quarter is the same thing that you will cover at the university, like in a year or a year and a half. So you really learn in a very condensed way, in a very efficient way, some basic or some important knowledge, and you cover them very fast. And you also see differently. I mean, I learned it at school how to run some regression, stuff like that. But I mean, here you understand every theory from a business background with a business mind, and this is really another angle on something you think you master, and you see it on another angle. And this is really interesting to get.
Okay, but we'll let you go. Huh? So, but anyway, we're in contact now via WhatsApp and via LinkedIn. Don't hesitate.
Yes.
And if you have any question, Julien, it's very nice because we talk together via LinkedIn, but of course it's not the same. And I'm happy to see you again and to see that you have achieved. So it was a great idea to go to the US, and it was your dream, and then you have achieved there, so congratulations.
No, thank you, Hubert. Thank you. It's a pleasure also to see you, and I will also to thank you for the good advice at that time. I mean, when we met, I mean, it was a small company. I mean, it was already 10 people, but I think one last story. I think that you will like it. When I met you, maybe you didn't know, but before you, I was working with Kaplan to pass my GMAT, and so I did all the studies, and I got actually a very bad score. Even if at the training I got like 720, 740. After, when I passed the real exam, I had a 610. And I was very disappointed. So going out of the exam, I said, okay, I'm gonna pass it in 1 month again, and this is when I met you. And I was really impressed by how different, I mean, completely different. It's another world how you are teaching the GMAT at the MBA Center in a much more personal way, in like small groups. And you were actually the one teaching the classes. So it was really high level. And after that, I mean, I was able to get a very good score at the GMAT. So I want to thank you, and also thank you for all the coaching for the essays. But thank you for.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Julien.
All right.
So basically, the famous last word. So you see, yes, all these students, they could get in because they got a good GMAT. As Julien said, when you went to Kaplan, 610, you don't go anywhere with a 610. Okay. So you need that. So I think it's called 760 or 770, which is quite a high score. So he had an Indian score, okay, so to say. So it's important. And what impressed me a lot is because, of course, I'm based, as you know, I'm based in Brussels. So most of my students study at INSEAD, of course. And I can see a big difference between people who stay in Europe and people who go to the US. Olivier is a counterexample. He has done very well, but Olivier is a quite outstanding person. So I would say that, and Julien as well, of course. But what I would say is that of course, if you want to make it, yeah, the US is still the right country to go. And I said that there's a big gap between European and US programs. Okay, so if you can go to the US, go there. Okay, I know the US society is a difficult society. It's difficult to live there. It's far from your parents, far from your roots, but at the same time, it's a country that will welcome you. By the way, voila, and so that's for the last word. So, Anand, you have something to say you about studying in the US, because we have a specific seminar today. Hello, Anand, are you with us? Anand is not there. So I don't know. So Karishma, what would you say? Your last word. What would you say?
Anand is
Anand,
here. So
okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, tell me. What are you saying? Something?
So basically, what piece of advice would you give to someone who wants to go to the US? Have you noticed that there's a big difference between those who stay in India, who go to Europe, and those who go to the US? You see that US is still the country where when you achieve great. Okay, that's what I noticed. Especially if you decide to be an entrepreneur. Is it also something that you have noticed? Would you encourage your students to study in the US yourself?
Yeah, definitely. One of my good friend of mine, it's called his name is Hubert Silly. So he has been pursuing PhD over there. So he told me that the labs and the facility which we get in the other countries, which our government is not funding, basically we lack the funds, right? Which is not there the case in the other countries like US, Europe, Canada, Australia. That's the major disadvantage which I feel in over here. That's why most of the students, they want to pursue their higher studies abroad, right? Because they get better chance, better opportunities. Labs are good, laboratories are good. Plus, you get to chance to, see the real world applications, which I think lacks in India so far. And currently, we are building up. Let's see how our government builds up in the near future.
Yeah, it's true that it is something that you can tell. So coming from an emerging country like India, of course, it makes a lot of sense to go to study in the West. Okay, whether it be in France,
Many
UK,
people
and US.
are also skeptical, right? How's the situation will be, how I'll manage myself, because they have been, from quite a long time being settled in India, then going back to the new countries, environment gets changed, everything gets changed. So I guide them accordingly. Yeah.
But still, they have nothing to lose. Huh? The prime is for those who finish last June, July. Yeah, for them it's probably an issue because it would be difficult to find a job. Okay, but what I've noticed, for instance, a great combination that I've seen is students who have an IT background, who have worked for an IT company for 3 to 4 years, go for an MBA. And I'm in contact with students, of course. We have Wharton, we have people from Wharton, from Chicago, but with students we get UC Irvine, UCLA, UCSD, etc. And we do relatively well, okay? And they tell me that anyway they will get a top job at Google, at Amazon, in an IT company, even a company they've never heard about, and even their starting salary is already $200,000, okay? In these companies, that software company, and they want an IT Indian who went even to a second-tier MBA, UC Irvine is enough, and they make great career there in the US. Right. There's a big US community, there's a big Indian community, so yes, it makes sense. So probably less for European because we already have a quality of life, but I think that Europe is going to be very, very harmed by the corona. So yes, it makes sense to go to the US, and the US what they have is that they have if you take it in a different point of view, there is access to money, okay, in the US. So they have a federal bank that can finance the economy, something that you don't really have at the same level. I give you an example. Before organizing that, we wanted to organize an event on US MIMs, okay? And I talked to Peter Kelly, who was my friend, so I studied at Harvard myself, I did my PhD there. And I met him, I don't know how, because I was like a sort of adjunct professor at BU. And then, I don't know, the guy likes France, and he asked me, well, so we became friends, and he's working for a high school in Boston. It's called Latin School. I don't know if they teach Latin, I don't know what they do exactly. And he was doing fundraising for the school, okay? And I could see on his resume that last year they raised $60 million. You have to see that INSEAD did not even raise that in Europe, okay? We're talking of a high school, okay? So they raise more than London Business School. They raise more than INSEAD. They raise more money than HEC. So there is money there.
Right.
It's very simple. And with that, they can finance innovation. So when there's money on the bank account, you can move from there, okay?
Right.
The point is that like what's going on now in Europe, when there's no money, people cannot pay, there's deflation. What do you do there? So that makes a big difference. So there's Sandra Paul Vanjuru from Kenya who asked me, but you know, Sandra, as a Kenyan student, you know, it would be you're a woman from Africa. It would be slightly easier, of course, for it that you get a good GMAT, but yes, you should go for it. Okay. And you've seen that, yes, it's full of Indian students, but there's room for other nationalities. Indian students cannot be more than 15% of the cohort, so there's room for others. Okay.
Right.
So, but it was a very good meeting. So for me, it was interesting because I saw alumni. Okay. And so I need to have alumni who have already experienced, so to get the feedback from them and to see what they have achieved. And I can see from them that they had stayed in France, they would have never been to where they are now. Okay, simply US was a booster. This MBA and staying in the US was a booster. Okay, so Karishma, we have a meeting in 1 hour now. Okay.
Yeah, we have another webinar in 1 hour,
okay.
and I'd
and
like
it's
to
late
thank
for you.
everybody for joining
today.
Yeah, it is. It's okay.